Hi beautiful souls, it's Tan here today again with another astrology video. So guys, we're finally done with the Saturn through the houses video. So if you've been keeping up with that series, you know that in those videos I was sort of acting as a person who has Saturn in that particular house, sort of telling you about their life stories and what their karmic cycles were and how to sort of break out of that karmic cycle. Continuing on from that series, I want to address some practical things that you might find useful for you if you have Saturn through each of the houses, especially during your Saturn return, when you're around 30 years old, or even throughout your 20s to prepare for your Saturn return, or even after your Saturn return and for the rest of your life, really. Some things to sort of get you in touch with the limiting energies of Saturn to sort of break through your karmic cycles. So if you have Saturn in the first house and you're watching this video, I highly recommend you to first of all, watch the video where I talk a little bit about Saturn in the first house first. So I'll provide a link to that up there and in the description box below. So you can kind of get an idea about what the karmic pattern of Saturn in the first house or in Aries, or if you have Capricorn ruling the first house, what those karmic patterns are and how to break out of it. And then you can watch this video to get an idea about the actual practical things that you can do while you're trying to break out of your Saturn cycle. So if you have Saturn in the first house, Saturn in Aries, or Capricorn ruling your first house, here are 5 practical things that you can do to get in touch with your Saturn and break out of his karmic cycle. So the first thing that you want to do is consider yourself to be a risk taker, taking risk in your life. So this can mean risk with regards to relationships and love, pursuing that person that you're very interested in. This can mean taking risk in career, in your life purpose, finally starting that business that you wanted to start, finally going after that job that you want to go after. This can mean sort of taking a risk with regards to your passions, your hobbies, your interests. Finally getting in touch with that hobby that you've always wanted to try out. The first step that you can do to becoming a risk taker is to understand failure. A lot of the times we don't take risk because we are afraid of failure and we don't even realize this. But the understanding that, you don't actually fail unless you give up. Giving up is the biggest failure. And with Saturn in the first house, not really trying or not making that first step can lead you to even already failing. Trying is making a progress. Trying is already success. So once you can sort of embrace the fact that you're not going to fail unless you really quit, and even if you quit, you can always go down a different path and try again. Once you can embrace that, now it is about accepting the unknown, because when you're taking a risk, you don't really know what the outcome is going to be. That's why it's called a risk. If you know that you're going to get a certain amount of salary every month, it's not really taking a risk. When you don't know how much money you're going to make within the next year, that is a risk. This quote where they say, better the devil that you know than the devil that you don't know. This is not for Saturn in the first house, Aries, or if you have Capricorn ruling your first house. One of the things that you can really do to embrace the unknown, first of all, is be in the present moment. And the thing about, meditation and mindfulness and being in the present moment is that when you're not thinking about the future or the past and you just focus on what's going on at the present, it actually lowers the levels of adrenaline and cortisol hormones that's coming out in your body. And these hormones are usually released because of stress. Stress that comes because you're having to take a risk. And then you get stressed because you don't know what's going to happen and because you're not in the present moment. The other thing that you can do to embrace the unknown is to make a list of all the things, all the bad outcomes that might happen as a result of taking this risk, and then try to find a solution for each of these outcomes. And you'll see that the anxiety that may come up because of the things that can happen that are, you don't even know what's going to happen, they can be solved. And they're not as bad as you might think. And the last thing that you can do, the last thing that can really get you going in taking that risk is to understand that, sometimes it's not really about what you're about to do, but it's more about taking a risk simply because it improves who you are. Taking a risk simply because it's just something new that you've never done before, and that is going to change who you're going to be. Taking a risk because it's going to transform you. It doesn't matter what risk you take, just do it, like Nike says. The second thing that you can do with Saturn in the first house, Saturn in Aries, or Capricorn ruling the first house is to engage in sports like boxing or martial arts, especially martial arts. Because the thing about having Saturn in the first house is it's really about mastering your will. So martial arts has this way of teaching the martial artist to have disciplined will and power. That's what happens when you combine Saturn with Mars. Mars rules the first house. It's a disciplined will, disciplined power. It allows you to know exactly when to take action and when to recede back. That is disciplined will. That is a mastery of your will. Martial arts, of course, it helps to build your body. You gain strength and flexibility and power. And so this ultimately gives you a certain amount of self-confidence. Not because you sort of become healthier and you've built your body, but also because, in order to master martial arts, there's a certain amount of focus, concentration, and perseverance that has to be involved in the process. And if you can persevere, have the patience to persevere through the training, then you're going to gain a lot of confidence. And of course, the last benefit of martial arts for Saturn in the first house is sort of simply to release the stress and have a place for all that anger to go. Talking about releasing anger, this leads us to the third thing that you can do with Saturn in the first house, and that is to go to what is called primal therapy or sort of scream therapy, which means that actually seeing a therapist. And this goes for a lot of people when they reach their Saturn return, is to actually talk to a therapist about what's going on in their life. And I think it's perfectly normal nowadays to be seeing a therapist. So what they do in primal therapy is that the therapist would kind of ask you to talk about past traumas of childhood, recall those experiences, and then you sort of release those experiences from your body through screaming, shouting, sometimes even crying. And doing this several times, a week will give a place for all the repressed anger to go. And therapy really does provide a safe space for you to do that. So I think it's really, really useful. The fourth thing that you can do with having Saturn here in the first house, Saturn in Aries or Capricorn ruling the first house, is to look your best every day, all the time. Simply because you deserve to always look your best. It's about embracing the fact that there may be certain physical attributes about yourself that you may not like, but so what? There's things about everybody that they don't like about their features. There's things I don't like about my features, like my teeth and my nose. Everybody can really see their flaws. So everybody's going to nitpick their features anyways, and so are you. But that's not the point. The point is that even though you're going to nitpick your features, it's okay that your features are not 100% perfect, because there's beauty in the imperfection. I've had people tell me that they like my teeth when I hate my teeth, for example. It's just about looking your best whenever you can, and that might mean, smiling. When you're going into public and when you're meeting up with people, offer them a smile. Sit up straight and have welcoming, opening gestures. Eat well. Eat foods that, with good nutrition, foods for your skin. Taking care of your skin. Buying clothes that you feel confident and that you think you look great in. You can even make a statement with what you wear. All of these things are going to be really, really great for somebody who has the Saturn placement. And the fifth practical thing that I would think is a really good tip for if you have Saturn in the first house, Saturn in Aries or Capricorn rule in the first house, is to be authentic most or all of the time. So, you know, Saturn in the first house has a reputation for sort of having a mask that you tend to wear wherever you are, and sort of creating a persona that maybe is not really true to who you are. The only way that you can really be authentic all of the time in your interactions with people is if you love and accept yourself for who you are. In order to love and accept yourself for who you are, you have to know yourself really deeply. You have to know what you want, what you like, and most importantly, what you want to achieve in life. And in order to do that, you may have to spend some time alone, spend time looking into self-help, reading self-help books, looking into astrology or human design or MBTI, personality typos, you know, all of these things, anything that you feel is going to give you a deeper insight into who you are deep down on the inside. That's going to be really, really important. And after you really know what you want to achieve in life, what you really like, then it's about patience. Having the patience to allow yourself the time to transform into this new being, this new person that you want to become. But that person that you want to transform into and become is actually who you've always been inside, underneath your persona and your mask. Well, now I want to just sort of tell you a couple of books and movies that might be really helpful if you have Saturn in the first house, Saturn in Aries, Capricorn Ruling in the first house, as a part of this transformation process. So the first book is, you know, The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown. You know, this book just mainly talks about having the courage to be yourself and knowing that you are enough. I would also recommend some books by Bruce Lee, who is of course one of the greatest martial artists of all time. The Warrior Within by Bruce Lee. This one is a really, really great one because this one he actually writes about his philosophies on sort of how to defeat adversity in life by sort of accepting the circumstances as they come. He also talks about yin and yang, the balance of yin and yang, and the inner spiritual forces that we have within all of us. And I think Bruce Lee is a really, really great example of someone who has mastered Saturn and Mars in his own chart. He's also, you know, you can also follow him on Instagram. There's people out there who've made Instagrams with quotes of things that Bruce Lee has said that are very, very inspiring. You know, his philosophies are very inspiring. So get yourself acquainted with this great Saturn-Mars role model. Movies that you may want to watch just for inspiration, you know, is Ip Man. Ip Man is a movie about the teacher of Bruce Lee himself and sort of his fight to spread Kung Fu into the world, as well as Ong Bak or Tom Yam Goong. These are Thai movies and they are about Thai martial arts, as well as, you know, if you're sort of a Disney fan like I am, then just something like Mulan. That kind of a movie can really build up that sort of Saturn, Mars, fighting spirit, courage within those of you who've got Saturn in the first house. So guys, I hope that this video is useful in some ways and is a bit more practical in terms of, you know, what you should do with your Saturn placement, because Saturn is all about practicality and seeing the results. I think that was a fly on my face. And seeing the results of his efforts. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button below if you haven't. If you already subscribed, thank you very much for coming along. I do birth chart readings, synastry, compatibility, relationship readings. All the information is on my website. You can check it out. And yes, I'll be back in the next video for practical tips for Saturn in the second house. And have a beautiful day, beautiful souls. Bye.